coming from outside the cell, inside the cell.
So this is Sean Heafy, and he's lecturing microbiology, and this is what the students see, okay? So once this gets linked up into Blackboard for the students, and then they click here, and as you can see, all the slides are showing. The students can kind of skip down and say, well, this numerical taxonomy business really confused me, so I'm going to skip to that. Then you can see it goes right to there. And interestingly, how the students view it is kind of captured behind there. So you can go back there, you as the lecturer have the rights to go back and view and see how really every student in your class viewed or did not view, which parts they looked at, did they watch the whole thing, and it gives you, like, by lecture. See, I'm not sure if I can get to it because I'm not the lecturer. This is the thing. If I was Sean Heafy, I could show you this quickly. But I sat with someone and looked at the lecturer's results. And this is what you would get to see. You see for each one of your lectures, you get to see the hotspots. So which parts are the students looking, like, are they going directly to that classical taxonomy business? And then that might indicate to you, maybe that's a hard thing, or maybe I didn't explain it very well, or maybe it was so riveting that they wanted to go see it again. It's a little bit hard to see. You as a lecturer kind of need to think through, what am I seeing in terms of the statistics. But it does give you some quite interesting and detailed learner analytics that you can, use to inform your own practice. So not only that, it kind of gives you, it's a little bit hard to look at and listen to yourself giving the lecture, but that's good. Oh, come on, isn't that good for CPD? It's good to kind of, that's one of the occupational hazards of public speaking, is that you have to look at yourself. But anyway, then we can learn from it, and okay, too many ums in this talk. We can just learn to see what we can improve. So I just thought I would show you that.
Is it worth saying as well to it?
Yes.
You see what it says bookmark? You can make a note about a particular part if you want to come back to it later. If you want a bookmark, you can just jump straight back to that part.
Yes, so comments can be seen by anyone. Bookmarks are my bookmarks. And then notes synchronized to what you're watching when you type them. Yeah. So, and you can choose to not let this show. You can choose it. When we did our evaluation, we asked students how much they valued seeing the teacher's face, and a surprising number of them said they valued seeing the teacher's face. We haven't really used this in the realm of distance learning as much as we would like to and are hoping to this year. And I would guess that would especially be an important thing for people to see the instructor's face if they're distance. I think some people are just camera shy, but what the students actually said in the focus groups that I did with them was, well, it's a little bit funny to just hear the disembodied voice floating over the slides. I don't know. So this is what they said, but it does take up more bandwidth. So as time goes on, we may decide that we don't really need to have that. I just thought I'd mention it. So I'm going to switch over to my slides at this point. Which are where did I put them? Oh, not that again. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, okay. Basically, I thought I would just go through with you some of the facts about the pilot that we did last year and the evaluation that I was able to carry out so that you can get an overview of how the work was done then. And yes, the university is going to do what is being termed a limited rollout of lecture capture for this year. Limited rollout still exactly remains to be defined, but generally what we think is going to happen is that the largest lecture theaters are going to have the kit installed there. But we are also making the case that we also need some seminar rooms to be accommodated as well. But in addition to that, Catherine's going to show you a way that you can start doing something today, that you can lecture capture kind of at your desk using stuff that's already available on here. And this is definitely supported by the university because I know you were in the last session. Now some of us were here, some of us were not here in the last session. Last session we had Paul Riley showing screencasting, and he was using Screenomatic, which is a browser-based thing. Yeah. And it's very simple, and you just do it, and it basically works. But we actually have something installed by the university. And actually, I forgot this when we were talking. It's called Adobe Video Creator. And is that a little different from screencasting?
Screencasting would be Adobe Capture Day.
Right. That's it. And that's what I said to everyone. Yeah. And I said, book a session with Catherine if you really want to get into that. And the whole and that is the supported item.
That is the supported.
Yeah, and it is quite good, and it really is. It's worth taking the time. We were just showing like a quick and dirty something, so. But also this new thing, the new version of Adobe Presenter has something called Video Creator, which we will show you today. And so it gives you some options for things that you can do right now, in addition to being aware of what the university is going to do this term. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly show you, and I'll keep my time. So these are the departments that participated in the pilot last year. So in semester 1, we just had medicine, law, chemistry, and education. And in semester 2, we had some new ones. And I've forgotten everyone's names, but this was Sean Heafy and Martha Clokey. This one was Blair Grubb. We went through all the different ones. These were chosen because it was a coalition of the willing and the available. That's how it worked out. We tried to get some more people from the arts and different things. But as it turned out, a lot of, when we needed to start, the person who wanted to try lecture capture said, oh, well, I'm not actually lecturing this term, so try me again next October. And so I actually went back to this person just last week, and he said, well, it turns out I'm only lecturing in the spring. So, these are the issues we had to work with. We could only do what we could do. And so these were the ones that we had. We tried to, and in addition, we did some day schools. So the criminology study day was actually an on-site, and they recorded it at College Court at the new facilities there, and then they streamed it out to distance students. So I guess this was one that we've done for distance students. And then you might remember our learning and teaching conference that we had in July. We managed to properly screen capture, I'd say about a third of all of those talks as well. So it just gives you an idea that we've been trying other things, not just scheduled teaching. So as I was part of the Institute of Learning and Innovation at the time, we were approached to do the evaluation of this work. And so basically through the whole year, we did a number of activities. So I had 3 student focus groups, which was actually, to me, that was in a sense the most fruitful, because I really got a rich capture of what the students were doing, what they were studying. We interviewed lecturers, those who are participating. We did online, and then I did 2 online surveys, one for the students, one for the lecturers, and then we looked at the learner analytics. So just going through some of the things that we found, yeah. So for this I thought this was the important question to ask. Is listening and viewing the lecture helpful to my teaching? And as you can see, we had strongly agreed 65 and somewhat agreed 29. So this is the number of people who said yes, it's helpful for their teaching. Now, if you think about it, if you're a researcher or have had any experience with research, you'll see the holes in my methodology right here. You'll see that I didn't ask people who didn't participate. the thing was to try to get the results from the people who had joined in. But then you'll see that, you know, the people who participated were kind of keen to try it. So I think we have to, the reason why I point that out is because for the sake of real research, we do have to kind of be critical and kind of step back and say, well, this is not a whole university view. This is the view of those who were interested in it. Yeah, and I just thought it was fair to point that out at the beginning because otherwise, you know, we might get the wrong idea about the research. I thought this was interesting. Should the university continue lecture capture? 98% said yes. And actually, this factored out to be one person, and I found out that that person, what did they say? They said, that person answered in the first term, and they were complaining about the fact that they had to wait for the technician to come and get the person, you know, wired up and working. But I know for a fact that that only happened the first time that that person lectured. So, and then right after that, I did the survey. So I would say that, you know, knowing that that was the complaint, it's not a very strong complaint. So from discussing with the students, how did they actually use the technology? This is what they were doing. The students would say they wanted to see it within 24 hours. They wanted it to be made available right away while it was still fresh in their minds. And then they would go back later, probably closer to the time of the exam, and then go and look for segments only, probably looking at, you know, doing what I did, skipping around in the lecture, okay? They also said they really valued the fact that they could sit in the lecture, be comfortable in the knowledge that it's being recorded, and they could give their full attention to the lecture and not feel that they had to write down everything important that was being said. Now, to me, I thought that was very, that was a strong statement because you get an idea of how they're learning. You know, they're wanting to get absorbed in the lecture, and they wanted to have the freedom to not feel that they had to write down everything important. And having said that, it's a little bit tricky because every once in a while, this technology might fail. And so if they're fully trusting in the technology, you know, I just thought I'd point that out. We actually didn't have it fail, except for maybe once or twice when the person forgot to turn on the microphone. Seriously, that was the main problem, you know. So generally, the technology is quite solid, and this is why it costs something, and we have to pilot it, you know. But it was quite solid. But I just thought that was important to point out. And then this would be the natural guess as well, that because students are not native speakers of English, or because they have some learning issue, or whatever it might be. Of course, students also said it would be nice if when I have to go to the doctor, I know that my lecture is being recorded. I will tell you that I did go back and I asked every single person who recorded their lectures, the staff now, I asked them, did you see a drop-off in attendance in accordance with your lecture capture? And I have to be honest, and one person said, maybe, but my lecture is at 5 p.m. on a Friday. So I just thought that's worth mentioning because I think 5 p.m. on a Friday lecture is when the students might not come to anyway. And so, you know, we have to consider about that issue. But other people said they did not notice there being a correlation between the two. So, okay, so then we asked, how many times did you listen to? How did you view the lecture? And so 58% said once, 2 to 5 times was 31%, and 12% said more than 5 times. I'm going to tell you that on the neuroanatomy lecture, Blair Grubb got a couple of people emailing him and said, I watched it 40 times. Not sure why, but what I was picking up in the focus groups was especially lectures that have new terminology, and I suppose neuroanatomy, that would be one of the cases. And you know, some people really pack their it depends on how you're covering your material. Depends how your module is. Like I know in medicine, they actually tell the students, you must not ask any questions in the lecture. They're not allowed to ask questions. And the reason is because they figured out that they have to pack in 50 minutes of material and they just have to do it, you know? And so then they they shape their module in such a way that there are small group sessions, and that's where you get into the discussion and the meat of it. So you save your questions for that. Obviously, everybody's going to do it different. You know, if you're lecturing on literature or, you know, you're going to structure your teaching differently. But I just thought it was worth pointing that out, that it kind of depends how you do your lecturing, what your purpose of your lecturing is. I actually heard Dawn Watkins from law say that she noticed students commenting that they appreciated the lecture capture because, again, new terminology that they needed to know. So.
Sorry, just that
yes.
is in addition to actually attending the lecture as well. So
yes, oh yes.
That's like, it's
oh
twice.
yes,
yeah.
Yes, this is not either or.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, how did you use the recordings? Now, this is what I asked the students, and I actually gave them drop-down choices. I was trying to take a guess as to how they might use them. So they were taking notes, take notes in your own way. I think I was trying to compare it with the bookmark thing. I think they hadn't quite found it at that point, but when I was asking them. So mainly what they're doing is they're looking at notes that they already took, and then they're creating more notes. And I had students tell me that they were so glad that the lecture capture system worked nicely on their iPad. They have the iPad there, then they have their whatever they were scribbling on, or a laptop that they were typing on. So they watch the lecture capture on one device, take notes on another one. Or students would say they would draw spider diagrams, and they were just kind of going through and processing it, making sure they really were squeezing every ounce out of it that they needed to. So I thought that was quite, you know, a good use of the technology. I thought they're not using it, you know, to be cheeky and cut corners. They were using it to really further their learning. This one is long, sorry, but it's so good because they gave so much information as to what they were wanting to do. So here, I do not write very quickly, so it can be frustrating taking notes and trying to listen and concentrate at the same time. And then they like to just kind of get into it on their own when they're by themselves and no one else is in there. I cannot just listen to someone speaking and take it in, so this system has been really helpful to me, and I hope this becomes widespread. So I thought that's quite a rich comment. Okay, so then I asked staff, do you feel this method of lecture capture will be of benefit to students should it be officially implemented? So these are people who dealt with the ups and downs of us kind of just installing it, and even the majority said yes, just as it is. And the 40% with some adjustments, it just tended to be things like, I just need to make sure that someone is there on the first maybe 2 times that I'm lecturing to make sure that I feel like I know what I'm doing. And once they had someone there the first 2 times, they were generally fine for the rest of the term. And so to me, that's a completely reasonable thing to say, and this is what we're trying to get to make sure that we have the support. Definitely for the first one, hopefully for the first 2, you know. Because things like being, you know, every microphone works different in every room, and it can be quite tricky. But I've been to the training sessions that Catherine has done with the lecturers, and they seem to get it right away. It's not that hard. You know, you just kind of click something. And so it's up to the lecturer. This is not done automatically. So the lecturer needs to come there, set up their PowerPoint, and then click the start to record. And that's generally it, right?
I think they mainly said once they'd started, they didn't even notice it was there.
That's right, it kind of fades into the background.
Carry on as normal.
Yes.
It's a case of stopping it at the end.
Yes.
So most of you didn't really notice too much.
That's right. One thing that they did kind of comment on, and I didn't show this, is the editing. So you do have the power to go in, and if you really misspoke, you might want to edit it out. But I have to say, people did find it kind of fiddly, and in the end, most people just kind of said, oh, forget it, I'll just live with what I said. Now, but the fact remains, you can go and edit it out. And then, I think it's comforting to have that, you know. But similar to the session we just had with Paul Riley, where he sort of encouraged people to not worry too much about perfection, just kind of, you know, if students come to understand that this is a lecture, this is what I said on the day, it may be that a new finding comes out that afternoon, and then by that night, what I said is wrong, But you know, that's the nature of a lecture. You're speaking as to your expertise on this day. That's all you can stand by. And so saying that this is a record of what happened in this lecture on this day, that's fair enough. You know. Okay. And then here's some comments from staff. This one came up pretty often. We need to give students more for their 9,000 pounds. I thought this one was interesting. What they're paying for in tuition fees is the actual experience of the lecture. I think one thing I found is that, yes, students do value the lecture. They value the chance to come and be with the instructor, be with other students, and discuss these things. Yes, and I remember this was Dawn saying this because she's got packed lectures, and she felt that at least having them recorded so that the students could go back and listen to them. If they couldn't fit in all the questions on the day, at least students have something that they could go back and refer to. So she felt that was a plus. And as for her, she personally says, if they don't come to the lecture, I don't exactly mind because my lectures are too packed anyway. And so, so I just thought I'd mention that because some people have different views on this, Okay, so then here were issues that the students raised. So again, have technical help for the first couple of sessions. Same for the editing. Issues with sound, wireless microphones. Now, I was going to try to use that here today. Right now, I've got the microphone recording out of here, and oftentimes in the lectures, that's what you've got. It's better if we could use the clip-on ones, yeah? And I had one here ready to go, and I couldn't get it to work this morning. But in general, that would be the way to go, because then, if I wanted to be picked up by the camera, here I am wandering out of range, but the sound would at least be getting picked up, okay? So this is one thing I'm trying to work with the new rollout and encourage mostly wireless microphones if we can, because to me that's best. It's best for the instructor. Then you feel you've got the freedom to lecture as you always have, and you don't have to constrain yourself because of the tech, This was the one thing I thought I'd mention, and because it's something for you guys to think about, and hopefully I'd like to have a discussion after this and get some thoughts on this. We did have a couple of people try to record seminars. And the difficulty that happened was they wanted to be able to capture the students' entire, what the students were saying as well. And they wanted to, because the whole thing is you're, constructing knowledge as a group, you're discussing, you're going further into the topic. So this was chemistry. I will tell you it's Dylan Williams, and he wanted to try to record his seminar. And the difficulty was that he didn't manage to get the students to sign off and say, yes, you can record my voice. He didn't manage to get that on the first day, and as time went on, he didn't manage to get the approval by email either, and so he never felt comfortable enough to go and go ahead and record. Having said that, I have been asking this to people, and I'm not sure if legally we really do have to do that. I'm not sure. It's quite a cautious approach to say that we definitely, what do you have some knowledge on this? You're lost.
Yeah, we do. I mean, Gemma reports lectures as well, and we never ask the students. But we would expect in a lecture that you're delivering to the students. There's not that much two-way interaction. It might be different in your lectures, Gemma, I don't know. But,
yeah, you get a few questions, but I would get offensive about using this in a smaller group, just because not necessarily whether there's permission to record their voices, but whether they'll just feel inhibited from participating with shy students who
exactly.
already scared.
That's a very strong possibility, and that's why I felt a little sad that we couldn't go much further last year with it to find out that thing. But
it's also worth saying when we do have questions, particularly on distance learning weekends where they're recorded, because the microphone is so far away that the voice is obfuscated anyway. You wouldn't be able to recognise the voice. Quite often, you don't even hear the questions.
Yes. Yes.
A solution is that if it's a big room, you've got a webcam facing the tutor, you're possibly not going to hear the question anyway.
Yes.
So ideally, you have the lecturer repeat the question.
Yes.
Answer.
Yes. That's the way to provide the information for the students without compromising their identity, I guess. Yeah.
If we had to get approval from 400 students, they'd never be available.
Well, yeah. I mean, when that, you can just answer that, I'll come back to you. On that, when we first started discussing this, and we had a debate about it in the ITS Focus Week last year, one idea that came up there was that we might actually ask the students to sign away something at the beginning of the year as they register. I don't know if anybody's taken any action on that. I haven't. But I know that some universities do that. So I just thought I'd mention that. So they ask the students to sign away their, basically, as they're registering for the year, they ask the students to sign something saying, I understand that there may be the use of lecture capture technology in my sessions, and I hereby give the right for my voice to be picked up. Yeah? Now, what we always, what all the staff have done, and I think this is probably wise, is tell the students that you're not going to get picked up on the webcam. Because students do get, there's a difference between voice and picture for some reason, and people don't want to be seen. So as long as you keep the webcam pointing at the lecturer and only lecturer, you're generally okay.
I did also have a slide saying if anybody doesn't want to be recorded, let the lecturer know.
That's right.
At the beginning, so
That's
right.
It's all
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever did.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Actually, I think in education, they did. A couple times they said, I would prefer, that was a small seminar again, and they said, I would prefer that this not be recorded. And then the lecturer, who was new to the thing anyway, had to go and like pause it, and it was a bit of a pain. And this is why, in the end, they just kind of came up with the way, which is what you said. Generally, it's a big room. They're not going to get picked up by the microphone anyway, you know, or even stop the recording before the questions begin, but then the students don't get the benefit of hearing the questions. So, yes, sorry.
So my question was actually, so was there a definitive answer because to whether we can record students without their consent? Because the reason why I'm here this morning is I want to use it for an assessment where we have to have them externally moderated or moderated by a second person,
Right.
And we're limiting the people in the room because of timetable issues and teaching issues to just one person doing the presentation. And my idea is to have the presentations recorded so that they can be externally moderated at any further point or internally moderated or whatever. Then, obviously, there's pedagogic reasons why you might not want to do this because of anxiety, but that aside, legally, can you record somebody without their consent?
Sorry, is this a student?
Yes.
Okay, my understanding, and okay, I will personally go to Tanya Rowledge with your question, okay? And we'll just make sure, yeah, that's right. But my understanding of that question is that it's different for staff and for students. Because when you're recording a staff member giving their presentation, you are, they need to give you the right to record their performance. It's their performance that you're recording. With a student, it's a little different. Definitely different when they're asking a question. I would not class that as performance. This is why for asking questions, I don't think we need to. But you're asking something different. You're asking them for assessment purpose. So I think that's a special question.
Okay.
So yeah, I think, yeah. So we should ask, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's not unusual to record student presentations for the sake of assessment. So I can't believe this is undoable, you know? I'm sure this is, you know, I'm sure there's a way to handle it. Okay, so, oh yes, and then the audio only, audio. And also, I didn't show you when I was showing you the first Sean Heafy, there's a way for the item to be downloaded so that you can take it away from the internet. Now, we actually didn't enable that this time because we weren't quite sure of all the copyrights, etc. But I'm just saying that technologically it's possible, okay? And you can download, for example, we might, yes. Yes.
And that's one of the things that our students have said is they would want to be able to do.
Yes. That's what came out in the focus group. All the students said they wanted it. In fact, they were saying, why can't I download it? But it was because we were just getting used to the whole idea of copyright, you know. I mean, I would think right off the bat, it's not a problem to download the sound. Because the images, you might have issues of copyright, but sound, unless if so, you know, how are you going to breach copyright in what you're saying by speech? I can't see that as an issue, really. I don't know. We could maybe, what do you think?
No, I was just going to ask, who owns the copyright at the lecturer or the university?
University. Yeah, the university, yeah. If you work at Oxford, it's different, but at university it was. The university, yeah. But you own the right to your performance. That's my understanding of the law on that. Yeah. Now, some people go ahead and put a Creative Commons seal on their on their slide, and then in a sense, they're claiming something for themselves, aren't they? If they put a Creative Commons on their slide. And then that's a little bit of a muddy issue, but a lot of, that's one way of handling it. And you can say, well, I did author this, you know, so.
So when I left a previous institution and created a lot of things there, so you can't have those things. They belong to the institution, but that was the way around it, was they allowed me to make it into Creative Commons, and I can make it myself.
Thanks for that.
So I still have the results.
Fairly relaxed here, as you might expect.
Yeah.
So the university does claim copyright over teaching materials, but he's absolutely fine with taking it away.
Yeah.
So students agree.
Yeah, I've never heard of any kind of tussle. And,
It was invaluable.
oh, okay. Okay. And it's a pretty typical practice to do what we're doing, as far as I know. I've been kind of keeping tabs on how universities handle it, and most of them say, yes, we own the rights, but you know, there's some respect for the fact that you created it. It's only Oxford and Cambridge that they treat them like artists, like it's you have the full rights to it. It's a little different there. Okay, just coming up to the end. Yeah, we thought this was an interesting question to ask. Having lecture capture would have made me more likely to enroll at the University of Leicester. Well, surprising numbers, completely agreed, somewhat agreed. You know, that's not a huge majority, but, you know, you just have to ask the question, if that percentage really do think that, then it's got to be a positive thing. And I did ask a question like this in the focus groups, and what the students said was that they felt that it was the university being on their side, you know, just trying to, like, showing that, yes, we are providing these things which will help you in your studies. And I think Dawn Watkins from law got some exact feedback on that as well. I think the term she used was, they're setting us up to win. That's what they said. And they felt that the module for which they had lecture capture, they just had more of a chance at winning. And I just thought, well, that's an interesting way of looking at it, you know. So the student voice has been quite strong in all of this. In fact, I had asked one of the students to come and join me in the session today, and he couldn't. But I mean, it was a groundswell of interest in this by students that really kind of pushed it along at the university. And I think that's an interesting and good thing.